Soweto, South Africa's biggest township with an impressive struggle history. Some of its outstanding sons include freedom icons such as Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who hail from the famous Vilakazi Street in Orlando West. It is also a home of soccer giants Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, the glamour boys of Pefeni. While today Soweto is a fully developed residential area boasting of several shopping malls including Maponya, Jabulani, Proteas and Dobsonville, its growth was not by design. The previous government had wanted to create a reservoir for cheap labor to work on the gold mines around Johannesburg. This explains its underfunding in terms of education. Despite marked improvement by the democratic government, the education system in Soweto is still characterized by serious challenges, including poor infrastructure and lack of sporting facilities. However, there are some determined young people from this township who defy the odds, break the glass ceiling and rise to become highly skilled professionals. One such person is Dr. Lerato Shabalala.
I grew up in Soweto. I'm from Naledi. I went to primary school in Naledi at Atamelang, and then I went to Michael Sacheng for secondary, and then I went to Thabo High School for just a year, where I was doing actually accounting and economic subjects. But that time it was not so great in Soweto, so my parents had to move me to Khopani near Zirast. We had career guidance classes, so that was a very positive subject, I think, in our school, because there we were able to we had a booklet actually that had all careers, and we would actually choose directly the subjects that we wanted to take based on the careers that we aspired for. Personally, I did not want to do that because I wanted to just finish my matric and see, but the pressure that came was that we had even the school would invite companies to come and actually do presentations on the bursary schemes. At the time, there were bursaries for high school students. Motswedi High School is based in Northwest Province. And Northwest Province was, it still is a mining hub. So there are a lot of mines around the Northwest. So especially Anglo-American would come and organize Science Fest and for maths and science. So we would do projects in maths and science, and then the top achievers in mathematics and science would actually be nominated for. I think the program was even running nationally. A lot of those interactions and those Science Fest were actually the things that actually motivated us to actually do more, to look into the career paths that we wanted to take. My parents are still in Soweto, so they just, Motswedi, like I was saying, I had to live with my extended family, my father's cousins. So I lived with them until I actually went into a boarding school. So I stayed the 3 years in boarding school to finish my matric. I started my high school in Thabo Secondary School in Soweto, Naledi, in 1992, I think. And that's where I did my standard 6. Then I moved to Northwest, where I did, it was middle school. So the structures were different. The schooling structures between the then Bophuthatswana and South Africa were different. So I was more on, when I went that side, it was more middle school. Then I started my standard 6 and standard 7 in Buipuso Middle School. Then went to Motswedi High School in 1994. 596. In 1994. So I started my standard 8 at Motswedi in 1994. Yeah. At Motswedi, like I was saying, we had companies like Anglo-American coming through. giving us bursaries from grade 8, and with the prospects of actually continuing to matric. I had to forfeit my bursary to Anglo because I think there was a lot of competition, and like I said, I'm that reserved person who stands back a little bit. So I actually forfeited my bursary to Anglo American, to one of my group members, and continued, but applied still for bursaries. End of my matric. The reason why I actually forfeited my slot on the bursary to Anglo American was mainly on my character, because I'm that person who would like others to come in front of me. I don't actually rise to the occasion too often. So I think that was the first point where I defined my character. So in that, I forfeited it, but it didn't bother me. It was serving the greater good after all. So it didn't bother me. But like I said, I applied. It was a class effort for us to apply, and I remember it was not only Anglo American. We had also golfers. But after a year or two that I did not receive anything, I mean, it started to bother me, because I thought, yes, I have forfeited this opportunity. There's more opportunities out there. So I ended my matric without a sponsor. But fortunately, my dad at the time I sort of had a sponsorship for my tuitions. I had applied to universities, to UP, to Wits University, and I did not actually apply to technicons. I only applied to conventional universities. So what happened was, my dad actually decided which universities I would actually have to go to, in a sense that he refused me to go to any outside universities because he was looking at our budget. So he did not send my applications to universities like UCT. So I was confined to Wits and UP. I have a great relationship with my father. He's my mentor and my number one supporter. And he also worked in an engineering firm. So that has, I think, guided us as kids in what we would like to do. And we had to go through him on most things, because he had access to, he was mobile. My mother was always home because he was more a housewife, but my dad was always the one who is able to actually do things for us. Standard 9, what comes clear in my head was the time when I was actually more helpful to others and mentoring them and assisting them, especially with the maths. And I remember the last exam that I was supposed to write. At Motswedi, we had to set targets. For somebody to do matric in high grade, you had to have a minimum of 75% pass on mathematics. All other subjects were high grade, but mathematics, you could only get into it when you have actually achieved that minimum of 75%. And in grade 9. So standard 9. In standard 9, the last exam for mathematics, I was helping others, did not sleep. As we know, exams, we cross night. So we went through that cross nighting, and I didn't sleep. That when I was writing the exam, I actually had a blackout. And that is not a nice thing to have. And I had to black out for at least an hour into a 3-hour paper. And that was like the worst thing that could happen. But fortunately, when I woke up, I was able to catch up, but I could not meet my target of 75%. I was short by 2%, so I got 73% for my exams in mathematics. So that actually put a strain to me, because now I had to convince the teachers to say, I am passionate, I want And there was, I think, 10 students in that class in grade 10. And they did not want to have more. So I had to prove myself in the first 3 months in matric to actually show that I was determined and I wanted to have my mathematics in higher grade. I started my university in a non-conventional way. In January 1997, I remember we were sitting conceptualizing because I did not have the bursaries. On that, the third, I think it was the 3rd of January when we had to go collect the results. And my dad told me, narrowed down my options, that I can't do metallurgy, maybe I should do pharmacy because that's the only thing that I was accepted for at VETS. So we were narrowing down on the aspirations. And I can't go stay in rest. You know, if you have stayed away from parents, the next logical thing is to stay away again. So as we were narrowing that down, we received a letter of acceptance from Goldfields. Goldfields offered me a pre-university scheme where I would actually go work for 6 months as an exposure to the mining operations. And then I would go for 6 months at University of Technology. Then it was Wits Technicon. So I started. We saw that as an opportunity. My dad would not be taking the burden of my studies, and I would actually have an on-the-job training. So the prospects of employment after were quite high. So we got the results, and they accepted me even without the results at the time. The results, they only wanted them when I was going to the university and registering. So that was quite an exciting time. That was my first year. I think it was 2 years that I was, 1.5 year that I was with the Goldfields. But the economy changed. The bursary schemes were falling off, and they were going more for a loan system. So a loan system, I had to talk to my dad again, and university is not easy. Be it's a technicon or university, it's not high school. So I was also struggling a little bit to adjust to the pressure of the university. So I said, no, okay, I'd rather pay for myself rather than running the risk of failing and having to pay back the company. So I opted out of that for a year. And when I was doing my final year, S2, S3, my final year, and I needed, I think, 6 months of training as well. I was absorbed by DBS Consolidated, but the research division in Boysons. So it was close by, and they were willing to pay my fees. And that's how I ended my first degree, my national diploma. It's a study that you do when you want to actually understand how to actually separate soil or material and get the gold or the minerals out of it. So that is if you get the miners, that's where the confusions always were. You get miners that actually drill out the ore, and you get the metallurgist who actually processes that ore to the final product where you will get your gold, your copper, your titaniums, yes. I had a life with not so many friends, but I had few special friends that I think I carried from my tertiary levels, lower first degree level, and I'm still friends with them. We were wild enough, knowing when to come back and study. So I love to travel. So during those years, I would travel a lot and do backpacking. I was introduced to backpacking from an international student that I was hosting. I was more connected to the young people, especially in the locations. I would start small businesses with some friends of mine in the location, and yeah. I started in CSIR officially as an employee in 2016. However, I've been with CSIR as a postgraduate student. I started my master's, doing my master's with the Tshwane University of Technology. And in the years, the research was more based in bending of steel. I did my master's and completed my master's in 2010. At the same time, I was working for Tshwane University of Technology. I've been working with them since 2003. Okay. So when I had to do my PhD had to be centered around lasers because that was my primary, primary. And I got the opportunity to also work with Fraunhofer Institutes in Germany as a three-point collaboration between Fraunhofer Germany, CSIR, and Tshwane University of Technology. I graduated in 2017. The work was done before. So, yeah, I've been Dr. Lerato Shabalala since 2017. I was absorbed into CSIR as a senior research engineer. My responsibilities were to conduct research on laser surface engineering and laser additive manufacturing. I think, and last year, 2017, I got to join the AeroSwift project as the technical lead to actually advise more on the processing, and because we are more based on the laser material processing side. Currently, I work for the National Laser Center in CSIR as the research group leader. So I started as the senior engineer, but I've been recently appointed as the research group leader in charge of all the research activities in both laser surface engineering and laser additive manufacturing. At the National Laser Center, like you can take out from there, we specialize in laser technology. So we've got divisions, different divisions, where we start by understanding the laser and also in the applications of laser. So this group that you are in is the Laser Enabled Manufacturing Group, where we apply the laser technology to manufacturing. What we do here, we've learned from bending a pipe or bending steel to actually hardening a part of the steel or a metal with a laser without any contact but the light. We know the laser is actually light. So with high intensity or high energy that induces high temperatures. So we apply that technology in different manufacturing applications. We do we migrated also to laser cladding, where we actually put a layer of powder, metal powder, over a metal and burn it in such a way that it creates a layer that protects the shell that's made in metal. Now the latest technology is 3D printing, also known as additive manufacturing. And I think as the CSIR, we pioneer the technology by virtue of we have been able, with our partners called AeroSwift, who is an industrial partner, in-house, where we are standing right now, is where we are housing the AeroSwift platform, which is a South African designed and manufactured machine that was built for the past 8 years. And we are in the phase of actually trying to manufacture parts for different industries within South Africa. The work we are doing on the AeroSwift platform is centered around titanium metal. And South Africa has abundance of resources in titanium, and government has seen it fit that we should exploit that avenue of trying to produce our own raw material, being the titanium, and manufacture parts in titanium locally, as well as use those parts in our local manufactured industries. So 3D printing, what we have done and what we are proud of is that we have printed parts the throttle grips for an airline, for an aircraft. South Africa has a company. In South Africa, there's a company based in Wonderboom, here in Pretoria, and it produces the Alec aircraft. And in that Alec aircraft, we have demonstrated and manufactured parts that can be used into that aircraft. And there is a lot of still research and development that is continuing to actually put more parts into such an environment. Again, we're not working in isolation. We're working with universities. At CUT in Bloemfontein, they are mainly focusing on 3D printing implants for the joints, for the face. 3D printing is where you are able to manufacture parts where you have a layer of powder deposited on a plate, and you scribe based on the CAT design that you'd have, that you want, of the final product that you want. So layer by layer, you actually scribe on the part that you want out of it. When all is done, the powder is enclosed in a box, and you are able to remove the powder and remove your parts from the plate and have freestanding parts, and reuse your powder, which also becomes one of the advantages of 3D printing, where we are able to immediately recycle the wasted powder that has been used before. Medical and dental installations are already being explored, and I think there's a few patients that have received treatment and have received the implants that were designed and manufactured for their facial structures. And that is one of the success stories that we record in additive manufacturing. Yes, I'm married, and I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. They are 11 and 9. The girl is 11. And I balance my work and my private life in a sense that I have a supportive family. My husband is there for me, and he works flexible hours, which actually helps us. I've got my mother and my father who are now on pension, and on holidays they are able to actually take care of them, of my children. And I also have my in-laws who are very close by, that when I'm not available, at least my kids can be taken care of. As CSIR, we do road shows, and at the moment we are in Grahamstown, and it's that reach that we're trying to do, and I think we can do more, because the reach is out there, but those kids that are in the locations should actually exploit a lot of accessible technology that is available to them to access what is outside their environments.
Our country needs many people such as Lerato, people who refuse to be defined by their background, people who refuse to believe that success is a preserve of those who are from affluent suburbs, people who will take advantage of the opportunities that government offers to make good careers for themselves. And as the numbers of such people increase, our country will be closer to defeating our prime enemies: poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We will be closer to making the dream of a prosperous South Africa a reality. Lerato has played her role.